Hi, today I want to explore an idea from the book Amusing Ourselves to Death, authored by Neil Postman, especially his use of Marshall McLuhan's famous statement, "The medium is the message." This phrase is easy to misunderstand, but it is central to Postman's argument about how our culture has shifted from what he likes to call a typographical America to what we describe as a peekaboo world. First, what does it mean that the medium is the message? McLuhan's point is that the form of communication we use, the medium, does more than just deliver information. It actually shapes how we think, what we value, and even what we consider to be true. In a culture dominated by print, like early America, people were trained to think in a certain way. Reading books and essays requires much patience, focus, and one's own logical reasoning. Arguments unfold step by step, and understanding comes through careful attention. Postman argues that this typographical America produced a culture that valued rational discourse and deep thinking. But as society shifted towards entertainment and television, like we see today, the dominant medium changed, and with it, the habits of thought. Television, by its nature, emphasizes images, speed, and entertainment. It doesn't encourage long, complex arguments. Instead, it favors short segments, emotional appeal, and constant stimulation of our senses. This leads to what Postman calls a peekaboo world, where information appears quickly, just fast enough, and then disappears. And it's often disconnected from any context. We just enjoy feeding off of entertainment. In this kind of environment, the message isn't just what is being said on the screen. The message is that everything, even serious subjects like politics, education, religion, anything today in our world, should be presented as entertainment. As a result, truth can become whatever is most engaging or visually appealing, rather than what is most accurate or well-reasoned. So how should this impact our attitude toward visual media? I think Postman would encourage us to approach it with awareness and discernment. Visual media is not neutral. It shapes us. It trains us to expect constant stimulation, to prefer images over words, and to favor emotional reactions over careful thought. It doesn't mean that visual media is inherently bad, but it means we should be cautious about how it's influencing us, and the amount of influence we allow it to have. We should also recognize that not every kind of content is suited to every medium. Serious ideas, especially those that require careful reasoning, can be distorted when they are forced into formats designed primarily for entertainment. If we rely too heavily on visual media, we may find it harder to concentrate, to follow complex arguments, or to engage deeply with important issues, especially with those around us. This leads into the third question: how should our Christian convictions shape our attitude toward all of this? One of the most important things to consider is that God has chosen to reveal himself primarily through written words, the Bible. Scripture is textual, not visual. It's a form of revelation. The Bible calls us to read, to study, to meditate, and to write these scriptures on our hearts. It presents truth in a way that requires sustained attention, thoughtful interpretation, and much reflection in oneself and on the scriptures at hand. As Christians, we should be especially careful not to reduce our faith to something that simply entertains or stimulates. When biblical truth is presented only in fast-paced, visually driven formats, there is a risk that it becomes shallow or disconnected from its full meaning. Instead of being transformed by truth, we may end up just consuming it passively. At the same time, this doesn't mean we reject visual media together. It can be used in helpful ways for teaching, storytelling, and communication, such as things like the Bible Project or other informational videos, especially for younger kids. But it should never replace the central role of Scripture in our lives. We should prioritize reading the Bible, reflecting on it, interpreting it accurately in the context. Ultimately, the shift from a typographical culture to a visual one is not just a change in technology, it's a change in how we think as people. McLuhan's insight is that the medium is the message, and it reminds us that the tools we use to communicate are also tools that shape us. And Postman's warning challenges us to be intentional about the kind of people we are becoming. In conclusion, we should approach visual media with discernment, recognizing both its strengths and its limitations. And as Christians, we should anchor ourselves in God's written revelation, allowing it to shape our minds and our understanding of truth in a culture that often prioritizes entertainment over depth. Thank you.